we go. All right. All right, everybody, welcome very much to the first AMA District Outreach Team Zoom meeting. And the purpose of the outreach team is an expansion. It's not reinventing the wheel, but it's just kind of expanding on the wheel. In the old days, the AMA, and it's still listed in the documents, the AMA has a thing called an air show team. And specifically what that was designed as is a show team, basically like you see from Horizon. You see the Horizon team pilots, you see manufacturers team pilots, and they would go out and do the type of thing we're doing, but it would only be the entertainment portion. In other words, they would go out to entertain the crowd and show them high-end, high-value aircraft, get their attention. Think the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels, get the crowds in. But then there was never any follow-on, so it seemed, of engagement. And that's the other half of this, entertainment and engagement. And so I was at the Concord the Concord Wings and Wheels this past year, and we pulled out members to do all the other things, all the coordinating, which we've done in the past. But this year we said, you know what? Let's bring out some foamies. Let's bring out some affordable airplanes. Let's bring out a cross section of the hobby. And so that's how this was born, and it worked beautifully. And what I found out is it was super windy that day for anybody that was there. And we were flying a lot of the foamies. Chris Gleason flew his jet, and we flew the foamies, and we finished flying the foamies, and the people were still clapping just as hard as they would for a $15,000 jet. They were happy to see models fly. And I said, you know what? This has got something to it. Let's bring these out. Let's show them the whole, as much of the hobby as we can. And then the added engagement is let's put them on buddy boxes. Let's get them flying on the flight line, and then go back and talk to us about, hey, how do I get that? How do I get that? Well, as a matter of fact, you can enter a raffle for a couple of them right now. And if you win the raffle, we'll connect you with a club, and they'll teach you how to fly it. So it's the whole picture, not just the entertainment portion, entertainment and engagement. So that's the reason we're all here. And if that sounds intriguing to you, I hope it does. And if it's something that you think somebody else is interested in, we're interested in them joining it too. That's why this is a private group right now, just to get it kind of stabilized and see where we're going. So with that in mind, I want to start tonight with the educators, educational outreach at schools, to include the 2 to 3 interested members for the week of March 6th at Greenland Central School. Yes, very specific and targeted. And the 3 we have are Tim Souter, Bob Scroy, and Wayne. And guys, I want you to meet Randy Weld, who is the STEM teacher at Greenland Central School, and Robin Elwood, who, if you've talked to me at all about educational outreach, I think we're on to 4 years now, aren't we, Robin? Working together. That started at Rye Junior High in New Hampshire. And Robin came to me with, she came to me through the Horizon Hobby flight coach program. And she showed up with an apprentice and said, I got this, and this is what I want to do. And she had very, very high bars set. And I worked with her for a couple of years, and we got it to a point where it's a doable program. And now Randy has engaged in that, and he's got, Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, you got 7th and 8th graders, and you've got how many of them?
You got 14 of them working in groups of 2.
14 in teams of 2, and they're making the simple Cubs from flight test right now. And I've been into the class once to do a sim briefing with them. And so we basically, they do the build. Randy's had a little experience with me on the buddy box. He's doing really well. So is Robin. Robin's got experience, and she's working with Randy to help with the build assist and get them going. And based on what I saw, they're doing really well. I'm giving them some inspection tips on what to do. And the next phase is going to be, they're going to be simulating, and then they're going to be doing just toss tests with them, flight tests. And then they'll work into the maidens and any flight training that can squeeze into the program. So that last part I just said is a good part to segue into outreach with schools. When you guys, and this is for everybody, not just the guys who are going to volunteer at Greenland, when anyone goes to a school, what we found in the past is when clubs want to go, they're very enthusiastic. They've got all this stuff. They've got all these airplanes. They've got all this skill, all this knowledge, and they kind of rush into the class with the teacher who has no modeling experience whatsoever. And they want to show all this stuff in their hour, and it ends up being very overwhelming. So the point that I try and make with clubs and members now is, before you go in, have a conversation that starts with a question to the teacher. What do you need? And what are you looking for? Because I'll guarantee you, your toolbox is a lot bigger than their toolbox when it comes to model aviation and aero modeling. So then you can work together with the teacher to pick the specific tools that'll accomplish their goals. And that way you start a relationship that you can move beyond that initial meeting. So once you move beyond that initial meeting, now you start saying, okay, now I'll come back. What can we do next? And you build on it. I think a lot of times we try and give them the 20 gallons in a 5-gallon hat, and it just overflows. And what happens is that the teacher doesn't know what to do with all that stuff. The club goes back and says, well, nobody ever came to us. Nobody ever came back. And they get discouraged. Well, it's because you gave them too much. They didn't know what to do with it. So you got to give them a little at a time. I found that giving them less than they want and wanting more is much more beneficial than giving them too much. Robin, Randy, would you agree or disagree with that?
I agree. Absolutely agree. Yeah, it can be pretty overwhelming if you're as a newbie, not knowing much about this hobby, and having somebody come in and just kind of blow you away with everything, and then you leave and you're just like, okay, where do I go now? What do I do? What do I need? And so, yeah, it's very helpful to be able to have a conversation about what we need, not only in the classroom, because we have to, deal with the curriculum and stuff too, that we have to tie into it. So.
Yep. And Randy, what would you say about that?
Yeah.
I'd say one of the biggest challenges is that it's like learning another language, when you think of all the terminology involved. And it's taken me a long time to kind of wrap my head around kind of all the different components. And, and I've been lucky enough to kind of follow in the path behind the work that Robin did over at FRIA. And even with that, it's like a very slow kind of long-term process. I guess it all is dependent on what the educator is looking for. And so I think that's probably, as far as outreach, kind of identifying, but even that's tricky because you don't know what you don't know as an educator. You don't know what's possible, and what you might be able to do with your students. And I'm kind of still in the middle of it all. And as I go along, I'll be able to kind of reflect and offer more and more feedback as far as kind of an ideal pathway for educators to move forward. The thing that strikes me the most is that, this is hugely ambitious, what Robin did over at FRIA and what we're doing. But it seemed, and for a middle school level, but I think about this at the high school level, and this opportunity would be incredible to have, and there should be that kind of educator at most high schools that could oversee something like this, and tie in a ton of STEM skills along the way. But I'm lucky in Greenland. One of the key things on our end, and I think key with all of this, and why a high school model can be really beneficial, is that I was able to offer this as a preference course for students. So this is not a random assembly of students. They're the students that have said, I am interested in doing a model aviation course. And so I have buy-in right from day one. And I think that has been really key when you're going full hog as far as doing a build and the sim, and then hopefully transmitters and hands outside to conclude this. So I guess those are my initial responses.
Okay. Andy, you had a question?
No, I just wanted to clarify something that I understand where you're going with the teachers now, but if you look at our past and even our present, many of the clubs, when they get engaged with a school, the purpose is just for a single meeting. They're not looking to establish more than an introduction, an overview, an understanding of what the hobby and aero modeling is about. So yes, they go in there and they bring static models and they bring a simulator and they go through the process of talking a little bit about aviation, lift factors and that kind of stuff and drag. And then they get into some smaller aircraft and they do end up trying to do this in one meeting. I think after that, how do you connect with a school that wants more than that? How do you know which schools are interested in having a club come in and maybe come on multiple occasions or introduce them to some of the programs that we have, or that maybe AOPA office or someone else that they may be able to utilize and then use us when they think they need us for particular and specific areas. I just need to see what I would do, how do we get our clubs to know what the best approach is?
Well, I would say to Randy's response, you have that conversation ahead of time. You have that conversation before that one meeting. And maybe Randy, you can talk to this because Randy's in the process in Connecticut. I'm right there on it. Yeah.
I'd like to say something if I could.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. The educators that are in here, this is the approach that I've taken with the school systems in Marlborough and a few other towns. And that is that we started at the middle school with grade 5. And I actually put a program together that is not directed towards building airplanes and our hobby. It's directed to the technologies that are involved in order to cause an airplane to fly. And I have a package that I put together that I do a presentation to the science teachers first. And then those teachers and the math teachers, then those teachers are the ones that I encourage to follow up with a second meeting. To the extent, and the educators that are here, Randy and I forget the other lady's name. Robin. I quite literally on page 1, I talk about Newton and Bernelli and that they're old guys and, you know, they came up with this stuff and they understand why airplanes fly. So we should be able to. And then I put literally a full page of Stokes equations up for why airplanes fly. And what I do is I purposely turn my back on the teachers and the students. And I look at it and I tell them flat out, I say, wow, this is really, really good. We'll get into the details later. And I turn around and all of the students are dumbfounded. And that's when I ask them about the math. I said, does this scare you? Yes, it does. Why? I said, you know what this is. This is a plus sign. This is a minus sign. This is a division. These equations aren't supposed to scare you. I said, they're shortcuts for doing math. And I said, so let's talk about the math. And then I introduce functions, and then we get into the aircraft. And what I do is talk about the forces in flight. And then what I do at the end is I start asking questions. And anytime that the student answers the question correctly, they come up and fly the simulator. And it's a hell of a lot of fun to watch the kids not be afraid of the science. And in the process, have a blast working with airplanes. And then we follow that up typically within several days or the following week with an after school flight out on the football field. And take a megaphone with us and we'll go out there. And I have, for example, one of the ones in Marlborough, I had Jack Buckley fly. And I said, Jack, whatever you do, do exactly the opposite of what I say. And I tell the students, I say, of course, our model airplanes can't fly upside down. So Jack makes a low pass with the tail dragging across the entire length of the runway of the football field. So we do stuff like that. What we get out of it is the engagement of the parents. And also what I have found is several educators have come back to me and said, thank you for telling these kids not to be afraid of what was on page 1. So that's the approach I take. I don't know if that's of any help. I'm curious whether high school students will jump into this. And what I have found is that they're quickly working their rear ends off, trying to get ready for college applications in college. And then you lose them for 5 years.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy doing it with the grade school kids and also with the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Just my 2 cents worth. I don't know what the educators think of that.
Randy and Robin, do you want to comment on that?
I think it sounds great. And, I mean, Randy and I are both middle school level, so I think we both have dealt with them starting in 5th grade too. Yeah, it's great to have a plan and to be able to tie in the science and the content. Yeah.
Randy, now correct me if I'm wrong. You're working with not only the middle schoolers and some high school, but you're also doing the SAE teams for Worcester Polytech, correct?
I'm doing 3 teams at WPI.
Right. And
2 for AOP that are working on their MQPs, their major qualifying projects.
Yep.
And the other is an MQP team out of the mechanical engineering department that's preparing for the SAE contest down in Florida.
right. And
The
for
other
those of
2
you
are
who've
going
talked to me in the
Tucson.
past, that's what I did with UNH for about 4 years, the SAE Aero Challenge. So what I want to point out, what Randy's doing, because there's another fellow, Ron Fonz. Ron, are you here? I'm not looking at the entire screen. That's why I'm asking it out loud. Ron was going to come. He's in Connecticut, and he's also doing his own grassroots personalized program. And we encourage that because the different communities and the different schools and the different populations are going to have different needs. And if you can tie in, like Randy's tying in to his teachers with his particular skill sets, that's awesome. It's not cookie cutter, and it shouldn't be a national curriculum for everyone, but it's about the engagement. And if you can tie in the desire of the math, science, and technologies, that's just icing on the cake. It really is. So
that's the approach I've taken, and I've gotten very good responses from the science and math teachers because they have a hard time getting the kids to engage.
Yep. And that's that. Let's face it, those are given skill sets of the volunteer. And if the volunteer doesn't have those particular skill sets to engage in that method, then they have to readapt to what they've got to use.
You know, that's one of the things that oftentimes when you look at the various programs that are existing and that are out there, and the AOPA program, they had their original drafts were actually open to the public up until a month ago, and we did get a chance to look at them. And they did tie everything in with interesting experiments for the kids that was simple, basic, packaged into the process so that they learned that entry-level stuff through their hands-on project-based approaches. They weren't building aircraft. Maybe they blew up a balloon. Maybe they took the vacuum cleaner and blew it over a ping pong ball. Most of you know all the different techniques to explain aviation, lift factors and that. AOPA was one of the ones that have done, and I've looked at a number of the programs have done a terrific job. Their program is free to educators, not to us, but we had an opportunity to view it in the draft format. But it was designed for the high school level, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And each section that I viewed had all the behavioral objectives, the tools to accomplish them, the unique means to engage the students like Randy used, rewards and setups like that, all that really makes a difference, I think, in how quickly and how enthusiastically they want to respond to it, not to make it so standoffish, so difficult for them. And so I'm impressed what I've seen in the past, I say several years. Prior to that, some of the programs just weren't there. We're just starting to get a foot in that area with AMA, and we're hoping that as we move forward, we'll be able to provide you with more right from our resources. We just received a large grant for $550,000 $5,000 from FAA. And that's going to incorporate with it 2,500 different units that we'll be able to bring to each of you as educators, which is a small drone, one that fits probably we've seen it about the size of our hand, but it has all the programming in it so the students can build it, understand how thrust vectoring works, understand power to weight ratios and lift, all that kind of stuff. Comes with the video goggles. And it comes with a course. We're gonna be selecting schools soon who can participate in that program. So that I think is going to be our beginning to do what now Flight Test is providing many of you with. But we're doing it with the drone and with other types of aircraft as well. But so you got to keep your eyes open. We kind of tell you where we stand and give you the materials to do it.
Andy, did you say it was the AOPA that had the curriculum?
Yes,
Yes.
they have an excellent one.
Was it good?
It's yes, and it's free to educators. I've reviewed it. You might be able to see samples if you go on their website. Yeah, I mean, I'm advertising for them because obviously it's a great program and it's there.
Is it worthwhile
free.
though for maybe the AMA to reach out to them and see if they want to partner? Because at the end of the day,
yeah,
it's good to have a bridge
Yeah.
between them and the educators and somebody
Yeah,
who can go to the school sites and actually do things
yeah,
that are practical and possible that obviously the full scale world can't do.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're correct on that. One of the problems there is that once you get involved with government funding on the level that they got for this, which could be in the millions, I would assume, many, and I think that they have to meet specific conditions, and so they want to make sure that the schools that they engage with have teachers that meet their qualification levels, not necessarily having to be people that are UAS trained, but science teachers and math, science, and so forth that have at least that basic knowledge. And once they have those, the teachers can then engage with them. But in the process of engagement, they have to meet certain criteria because otherwise they wouldn't be able to measure the performance. So the FAA is looking for the performance levels that are achieved by the students so that the funding continues to keep coming in from the FAA and going to organizations like AOPA or AMA that are going to be able to do it in the structured way that the FAA is seeking it to be done. I would suggest the teachers that are here at least take a peek at it because you can do what I can't do and you can actually get more information provided and maybe you could share it with us, which I'd love to have, or we'd love to hear about it, but you're going to see it now firsthand where I'm looking at drafts of items that may not have been fully vetted and I'm part of it now. But the stuff I did look at, the projects were absolutely, I wish they had them when I was a student. I'd like to go back to school and start all over again.
Hey guys, I put that AOPA in the chat, and it's just if you Google AOPA, it'll come up. Aircraft Operators and Pilots Association. If you're interested in looking. Listen, before we get too far into this, I said I wanted to address Randy and Robin specifically with the volunteers that are going to go up to Greenland. So guys, this is for Tim, Bob, and Wayne. I sent you guys emails with the next step or the next plan. Did you guys get those emails?
Yes, I did.
I did.
Okay. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay, so
Not yet.
we're talking basics here, right? on our level of aero modeling, we are talking raw basics and pre-flight stuff. Randy and Robin, do you want to have any other conversation with Tim, Bob, and Wayne, who are going to be the guys that are going to be filling in where I would have during March? That week, just tell me those dates again, Randy, for March.
You got it right, 6th, 8th, and 10th. 6th,
8th, and 10th. So while we have you guys here, do you I mean, if all three of you can go to all 3 days, fantastic. But if you can't, why don't we divvy that up right now if we got a minute or two, so they will know. What do you guys think? Can anybody do all 3?
I should be able to do all 3.
That would be fantastic, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, even if, maybe perhaps it's helpful to have more than one person there some of the days.
That's what I mean. If
Yeah.
if we can do 3 each day, that would be fantastic. More the merrier. If we can't, then we can divide it up as necessary. So we'll at least have a minimum of 1 each day. That would be the goal. Can anybody else, Wayne and Tim,
Yes,
you guys do
this is
more
what-
than one of those days, 6, 8, 10?
Yeah, this is Wayne. I can do all 3 days.
Okay, awesome. Tim?
What were the times for that?
Oh, that's a good question too.
It's
Yeah.
we would be starting at 7. It's early. 7:45 is the earliest. I'm going to try to pull them from their advisory that week to give them a little extra time. So we could start 7:45 and that would run till just shy of 9.
Okay. I know it's to 8, 10 might be a challenge.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Really appreciate that. So, and
Well, yeah, I want to
talked-
say thank you too.
Um,
Big time.
there's Randy and I talked in the back of Greenland Central School. I think there's plenty of room in the schoolyard. It backs up to a cemetery, but you've got at least half of a soccer field there. So for the minor little flights you're going to be doing. So maybe if you have UMX airplanes or smaller airplanes to bring for buddy box, that would work. And if you can buddy box their scouts, their airplanes after you made them, that would be really ideal. Not only seeing their flying, but if they have a chance to fly it a little bit, that would be awesome. So
Things like crack yak to hyper for a student.
yeah, you will want to keep it very general. They're going to be flying 3-channel airplanes basically.
Okay.
We're just beyond a glider when you get to this point. Very basic. I use those when I do a schoolyard demo. I'll bring that stuff in and I'll do kind of a twist on what Randy does. I'll talk a little bit of theory once we get into it. I'll give them a little intro. We'll talk of theory and then we'll talk about control. And I use the total control from AMA, very basic with the FPG-9. And then I'll have the students yell out maneuvers and I'll say only one catch. You have to tell me the maneuver and then you have to tell me the control surface I need to use to do it. And we'll go through a couple of passes doing that. And if they tell me something wrong, I'll use the wrong control surface. And then I'll say what went wrong, what happened. So we'll
about
kind of
that?
mix it up with that.
How about that board that Dag put up that you pointed to me?
Oh, that's too much for this level
All
at this
right.
point. At this point, that would be something for the
You know
high
what I'm
school
talking
kids.
about.
Yeah, he's got a whole test board that he's got. So,
All right.
so the Greenland Central volunteers, are you guys good? No
Can
objection?
I just say a little bit of? Can I say a little bit
Absolutely.
about
Yeah,
that, Darren?
that was my next step. Is to give you the-
Okay. I guess on our part, we're crunched for time. Like we have 30 classes total with the kids, and we've crested 20. They have been working with the Sims, and they're doing really well. And we've got to try to get painting done, and then Robin's going to come in, and we're going to tag team just the throw landing, and then a takeoff landing. Hopefully, they will be really pretty solid on their control checks before, but I guess the number one thing I want to highlight is to just a little bit of demonstration is fantastic, but assistance in getting them controlling the flight as much as possible. This is kind of the big payoff that they've been building to, and I know there's a lot of limitations, around that, but I would say maybe compared to some other engagements, that a little bit of being able to watch and see is okay, but with the limited time, really wanting to prioritize exactly, Darren. That's what they're in it for, is they want to take a shot.
Yeah, I mean, you guys could mix the demonstration with the maiden. You could, what I did with the kids, if you're flying that maiden and it's doing well, I mean, I'll do like a loop or something with their airplane. Like, ooh, they get a big thrill out of that. And that way they can see their aircraft maneuver something that they won't be able to do right away. They might try, but it's piquing that interest. They put a lot of work into these things. And it's just, I mean, I had, when I did Robin's, gosh, that day, Robin, we had the grandparents out there, parents out there. They were just thrilled to see the airplane fly.
They
now,
were
we didn't
so
set it
excited.
up. like Randy's kind of going for more of a goal to get them some hands-on, and that was established right off the bat. Robbins didn't really establish that high mark. We tempered it a little bit because we had more kids, and the timing was such that we didn't have all these flight days and we didn't have all that availability. So just getting them there and getting through inspection and getting their airplane to Maiden was a thrill for them, and to see it fly. And a couple of them got a little stick time in between, and that was a good thing. So, I mean, you got to vary it as you go. You'll get the hang of it. But all I wanted to stress for the volunteers from AMA is it's very basic level, because of the time constraints.
You're saying that to reach
Say that again.
teams of aircraft.
It's called a simple cub from Flight Test. It's a 3-channel. What's that?
Can you hear me all right? Or?
Yeah, no, it's breaking up a little bit. Maybe put in the, if we can't do this, you can put it in the chat, Tim. I can answer it.
Oh,
sorry. So
And
Robin,
we're actually,
I don't want to hold you guys here any longer than you have to, because we're going to talk about some other stuff. You're welcome to stay if you want, but it's not going to be specific to that in particular.
real quick, because I think Robin will have good input, but just to there, I don't think we are going to have time to make the cuts and add the controls for the aileron. So we're going to be rudder and elevator only. I'm not sure how that limits things. There's one group that I could probably push ahead if we wanted to have one plane with that capability. I don't know if that would enhance the experience, and can look for feedback there too.
Well, my 2 cents would be, that would be great, because that would motivate the others to say, hey, here's what we can do. Here's what we can do in the future. And the guys can show a demonstration of what's the difference. What's the difference with the ailerons versus without.
Okay, and just for perspective too, I think out of the 14 students, 8 of them are 7th graders that will also have the chance to come back and do this course next year, but with much heavier emphasis on the flight component. That's kind of the goal for year 2 of the program.
And that would be a great opportunity. I'm pointing to Randy now, Randy H. That would be a great opportunity to dovetail in the sciences and work with them a little bit on what exactly are you doing. And let's look at a couple of lift equations. What would it be if I changed this wing around? What would that do? What if I change, because you could change the wing on that simple cub real easily. It's foam board. So, let them do a couple of Reynolds equations and look at them and say, "Ooh, well, what's this mean?" Understand aspect ratio, something like that. Just some simple design stuff.
Yep.
Lots of
Wow,
opportunities.
Reynolds numbers, seriously? You can do that at this level?
You can introduce them to the way that the functions work, and I think that's what the math teachers are most interested in.
Very
is
cool.
that at that grade point, it's really, the students already understand fundamental mathematics, and you got to start getting them to understand more complicated math. And it's a good way to introduce it, because it's an exciting way other than rote learning, which is the
I think
last
it's
thing.
fantastic. I just wanted to know the scope. That's all.
Yeah, and just so Randy, just so you know, humbling myself completely here, I am the Peckerwood who flies the thing. I am not the guy who engineers it or builds it. And that's why you see me emphasize the fun and flying end of it. I fly it, I don't build the hangar. And I am so grateful that you guys are out there, that the engineers and the mathematicians are out there, because that's why I'm leading this Zoom meeting, and I'm not you telling me the mathematics. So that's my job, is to facilitate all this, to get it going.
No, don't get me wrong. I think it's fantastic. I just wanted to know the scope. I mean, guys, I just accepted a job with Pratt and Whitney, so I'm kind of into that stuff. Okay, that's why.
Gary's nickname, I used to have a nickname for Gary, and he's the maniacal engineer.
Prandtl numbers, Reynolds numbers. Okay,
Yeah.
I just didn't know if they were into that. So that's
That's
all.
right.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah,
Adhesive and chemicals.
I start with
Stokes.
I start with the Stokes equations for flight. And just to scare the crap out of them, and then break it down into little stuff.
That
Sweet.
scared the crap out of me, Randy.
I had to do it once and then computers after that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered the education outreach, at least from the Greenland Central standpoint, with a couple of other tangents, which were fantastic. That's great. Randy and Robin, if you don't have anything else, if you do, now's the time. If you don't, feel free to stay if you want. We're going to just kind of transition the discussion a little bit. So
I just say thanks for all your help, continued help, and look forward to continuing building these programs both in Rye and Greenland and beyond, and just making them bigger and better. And it's just great. Thank you all for all of your help.
Thanks, Robin.
Yeah, and
Just a note before you go, Robin, what's going on at Rye presently?
I was just going to jump in on that too.
Go
Chandra
ahead.
she is interested. She's just got to get her feet under her in the STEM program. But the plan is for this to come full circle, that I can then kind of serve as a mentor for Chandra in re-engaging the flight program over there too. Because that big investment's been made thanks to Robin. We do have opportunities throughout the year to kind of work together. So that is the hope and the dream.
And that
Well,
is
if I could add just one quick add,
Yep.
the closest RC club to both Rye and Greenland is the club I represent, which is in Northampton there, right behind Joe's Meat Shop. So everybody's always welcome on a Saturday or whatever to come over, and we're more than happy, call it extracurricular, be more than happy to help us in any way we can if they just want to come over on a Saturday.
the name of that club, RC Aces.
RC Aces, and all those airplanes, and all those airplanes at the diner, at the Hampton Airfield diner, those are all club members that do that stuff.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Place to find information, is it right here on the Facebook page or elsewhere?
If you search
Should be.
RC Aces, just in your Google, you'll get the website.
Yeah, and it's right, if you know where Joe's Meat Shop is, it's kind of the club's right behind there, Northampton
Along the railroad.
Library.
It's along the old railroad track.
Right,
No,
right.
thanks for speaking up about that, because sometime between now and next year, my goal is to be good enough at all of this where I might be able to serve the buddy box role as well. That's going to be necessary for the long term of the program. So once I get through this, it's time to kind of transition my head to preparing. I've been preparing for the build. Now it's time to prepare for the stick.
And he's gonna have no problem. He's been working with me with a UMX timber, and he's doing really well. He's taken off.
And the other thing is we have, it's kind of like a little bit bigger scope, is we have solar panels there. So kids will be able to see, here's a solar array, and you charge your batteries for your airplane in a very eco-friendly way of doing it too.
Yep.
So I just wanted to toss that in, kind of goes along with the whole STEM thing, seeing a solar panel, and you fly for free, essentially.
And there's another club, Fremont Flyers, and that's where Wayne's from. And that's my old club. I'm still a member there, but I used to be president there. That's a little farther away. It's out by the drag strip. It's at the drag strip, actually. And there's another field in Fremont.
Well, I live in Nottingham too, so that's really close to me where I live too.
Okay.
So that's good to know as well.
All right.
So I just wanted to toss it in with the Greenland thing, that the closest RC club is right there. So we're very friendly.
Yep.
Happy to help.
Excellent.
Thank
guys.
you so much.
And Randy's point to him transitioning, the original discussion with Robin was, you're going to see me. My goal is for you not to see me anymore and to see other faces, like we've got Tim and Bob and Wayne now. And then the goal would be eventually us moving away from Randy to the next school, and Randy helping us coordinate into that other educator's system and other region, and two friends tell two friends, and so on and so on and so on. And the team would be located throughout the region and throughout the district to duplicate what we're doing right here. If it were in Connecticut, have 2 or 3 guys that are available there. Like if Randy's gonna do demos at a field, if any club's gonna do demos or whatever, and they need pilots, they need volunteers, they need helpers, they can reach out to us as the team, the district team, and we can reach out to those other members. That's the real grand plan. So that 2 or 3 or 5 people don't have to be traveling all over the place all the time.
Darren, wasn't Ron from Connecticut?
Yeah, Ron, I don't think is here. Ron, did you show up?
No,
I'm
I'm
looking at
looking
the-
now. I don't see him.
I don't think he did. He was going to, but I don't think he did. But yeah, Ron's kind of, he's trucking right along with his
Yeah,
program.
he's gone from 3, now he's up to 5. I
Yep,
said to him, if he keeps going like that, he's gonna be in trouble. He'll be just teaching again.
yep. And he's one of the ones that does some indoor flying, and he doesn't have access to pilots that can do
Yeah.
demos for him and to do the buddy box flying. He has a limited amount. So I said, well, we need to get you somewhere. And I think Jim Sear said, I'm right close by. I can do that. So Jim was going to be on this call, but he's part of this this initiative. He's on the outreach team as well. So that's what we're looking for. I mean, Andy and I've traveled around. John Yasamidas has traveled around with me. That gets to you once in a while. I mean, Andy's been doing it for 18 flipping years. So if we can spread that to other people, and one of the arguments we get, and you guys can help me with this, one of the arguments we get from the older members when they start hearing us talk about educational outreach and kids and younger kids, it's not about the youth, it's about preserving the memberships for the older pilots. Well, what the heck are we talking about? We're
Who
talking
said
about
that? That's
educating
bullshit.
them.
That's nonsense.
Well, yes, it is, Gary. Absolutely it is, but it's out there. The nonsense is out there. And so we say, what are we doing here? We're engaging the membership to do something with you. Yes, with kids, but you're out there flying, you're out there doing the stuff, share it. So it's really a moot argument if they just look beyond their little box. And
Yeah, that's
fair share that they're out there at clubs that are resistant. And
As we move forward, we identify, and over the years, we've had to do this, where are the welcoming clubs? Where are the clubs that don't push back on electrics? I mean, as we've evolved, and I've been in this hobby, I won't even say how old I am, but in the 50s I started. So I've seen the evolution of RC. From when I built a radio that had tubes in it, all the way to current radio systems. And each step of the way, as we've introduced different styles of flying to club members, we've seen the pushback. When the POC pilot, like Darren and I were talking about the POC pilot program, when it first came out in 2008, the AirMed worked on it extensively. We thought we were going to get 15,000 people. At least that was our predictions and from our studies and so forth, our first year. We ended up with 1,500. And we talked today about why. And one of the reasons why that happened, unlike with flight test, is that many of the people that come into the hobby and go to some clubs are intimidated by the aircraft that the members fly. They're large scale, they're expensive, but there seems to be a push on the part of that membership to get that, you've got to reach that point. Whereas flight test, when they came on in 2008, they took it from the point of view, let's build simple, affordable, easy to fly airplanes that everybody can get engaged in and enjoy the hobby. And so that's what happened in those times. Our own members and our own clubs who didn't recognize the need to have someone come in and enjoy the hobby at all levels. And like Darren mentioned at the beginning of the meeting here, he said, we were blown away when we were at Concord and the wind was so much that we took out the foamies. Now, we had some jets there that were gorgeous, turbines, big ones. And Darren goes up with a small electric and he's flying the electric jet. And the same thing happened at so many other events last year that we realized that we've got to appeal to the affordable aircraft, recognizing that, and the good news is today with AS3X systems in those lightweight aircraft, you can fly them in the wind. You can do a great demonstration and you can have a load of fun, probably more fun than someone having their $5,000 airplane and they're flying it like this because they don't want to go home with it broken. But what our fear has been our own memberships, and our members not realizing, open the membership, welcome new people in. They represent our future. If we don't bring them in, we're going to stop and we're not going to see growth. Any
Oh, I
other-
agree 100%. And one of our members at RCA says he's the maintenance guy at Exeter High School. So he's very, you know, willing and able. And so I'm just saying, you know, for you guys in Rye and Greenland, we're more than happy to help.
Excellent.
That's
Excellent.
great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
That's
Part of the fun too. The other thing I wanted to say is a lot of the clubs like the Merrimack Club that Tim's from, there's a whole document resource part of their website. So if you want to know something about this, the electric stuff can be very daunting for somebody, even an engineer that's getting into this. But there's a bunch of documents on some of the club websites. Like I wrote one with Cody Wojcik, who's one of the best pilots in the United States, on how to do gassers. And another guy wrote one on electric stuff. So I'm just saying, don't ignore the written resources as well, is all I'm trying to say.
I'm
Excellent.
showing another resource that we have, and that's the District 1 website that's loaded with resources as well. And all you got to do is look at it to find the resources. Just click on anything and just follow your nose, and it's all there. So let me go back to our little topics. I didn't call it an agenda because it was kind of loose. So we talked about education. We talked about what the team's doing. We talked a little bit about recruiting and what the purpose is here. So what's going on this season? We've got the Greenland Educational Outreach. There's a Hampton Open House being planned for May 20th. And Gary came to this because he's at RCA's, which is a third of a mile from the end of the runway at Hampton Airfield. It's right off the end of the runway.
Well, in fact, the whole altitude 500-foot AMA thing is really critical there because, I mean, we get everything from the Cessnas and the RV fill in the blanks flying over to Air Force One and stuff flying over. So yeah, we got to really pay attention to that 500-foot thing. But yeah, it's right on the path, and everybody that flies full scale at Hampton Airfield. In fact, one of our club members has a hangar over there.
John
And
Backhouse,
so-
who's the safety officer for the club. I invited John tonight, Gary. It was short notice, but hopefully John will
Okay.
give you a call.
Okay.
So what's going on? Rich Little is a JetBlue pilot, and he's known me for a while, and yeah, Tim wants to correct you, Gary. 400 feet in Class G. Very good, Tim.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
You're literally on my screen. You're literally sitting right next to ATC, Gary. So watch out.
Sorry about that.
So,
And of course, I never exceed that. Just so
Right.
Andy knows.
So, Rich has done the Beverly Air Show. That was, I think, 4 years ago. It was a great outreach. Andy was there, and Rich's daughter has cystic fibrosis. So that's his hook for the fundraising. He's a pilot. He's a very enthusiastic student of RC. We see him down at the Plum Island RC events all the time. And he's a friend with the guys down there as well. Larry Roper, if you're familiar with Larry. Rich is a friend of his. And Rich came to me not too long ago, about a month ago, and said, hey, we're thinking about doing something in Hampton. And I said, when? He said, May. I went, holy smokes, buddy. Talk about spool up. And he said, the manager at Hampton wants to do something that is an outreach for aviation, for the airport, for the cafe, you name it. And they're limited in scope because of the size. And he said, they basically want to do something with models. They want to have it predominantly model airplanes. And he said, basically do anything. Now, we know that has its limits, and I'm trying to work out some of those limitations right now. The biggest question I have for him, if anybody's familiar with the airfield, and I know Gary is, and I talked to him before, he mentioned the airport cafe. If you haven't been over to the airfield cafe, it's a great place. It's new. Last probably 5 years, they rebuilt right next to the old one. And the old one is now the flight school building. And that would house potential simulator stations for us. We could have that space for simulators, and there's a nice.
Well, actually, I think Backhouse was talking about we could actually use his hangar. And also, I haven't discussed it with him yet, so this is a TBD, but a guy over there, Brian Bojek, Odre, I forget his last name. Anyways, he has a Sukhoi 31. And I think he would be very willing too if I talked to him. He's a
And this all-
G650 pilot.
The
So
thing
I think
wanna
we could,
stress, Gary, is this is all going through Rich and the manager, of the
Okay.
airport, not me,
okay,
not the club. It's all going through.
well, we'll
Rich.
work it.
And
We
then
can
it
work
goes to the district. It's going to be basically district sponsored, but we want to engage as many clubs as possible. And of course, engage the RCACs because they're the closest ones. So if we get any engagement with people as far as training and they want to go do it, we say, a short walk right down these railroad tracks is your nearest club.
Any information, data, or anything like that, send it to Darren and I, because we'll make sure that the proper paperwork, which is new paperwork, will get filled out for the FAA. if
Right, I'll
needed.
probably be the CD for this event, and it's
Yeah.
just gonna be a demonstration event. It is not, repeat, not an open fly. We're probably gonna be staged on the grass between the cafe and the taxiway. We'll probably be flying off the taxiway, and the thing I have to straighten out is whether we're gonna get overfly of the hangars or not.
Well, the only thing I'd caution you is a lot of helos come there for breakfast.
The airport would be
Yeah,
closed for the,
Robinsons and,
the airport would be
and there's-
closed for the sessions that we'd be doing. That's-
okay, but a lot of guys park their helos right in front of the cafe.
But that would be all closed off. The airport manager is gonna close off that whole area. and
All right, then they'll
purpose.
park.
They'll
some-
actually
they'll
have
land
statics out
someplace
there.
else.
We're not sure of the full scale activity yet. So again, this, I would say this is all, although there's a date, I would say the plan and the outline is tentative at best. I haven't gotten any strict details, and we need those before we go. As you know, we want to do it right.
Darren,
okay.
I think once it firms up, it might make a lot of sense to put some sort of sign up sheet or a link to a sign up sheet in the Facebook site here for outreach to get people to sign up for volunteer jobs or-
Exactly. Yep.
or whatever, so that we can start to generate a list of folks who have the ability to commit to that day and what types of things they're interested in volunteering to help with.
Absolutely. That's, I threw the
I am
date
the
out
se-
there for that reason, so people could start thinking about it.
One of the reasons I'm on this call is I am the secretary for RCACs, so I'm gonna be taking notes and presenting it to the club board, to kind of be the host club, so
So
that's,
Gary, if you
that's
want,
my action.
if anybody here wants a good outline or a good template of what this is the idea of this, it is right on the this
Bring it up.
District 1 outreach team group. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, pull it up.
It's right on the group, and if you look at the Concord, I've got it on here somewhere. Hold on. It's a little slow on the Zoom, pardon me. I posted it on here. If you scroll back, you'll see it, and it's on the District 1 Facebook group. Here we go. If you take a look at this post, Gary, and the text with it, this is kind of the idea of what we're talking about.
All right,
This is what we want to do. We had volunteers who weren't comfortable flying in front of large groups. So they worked the raffle booth. They met and greeted. They did hangar displays like Andy over here. They did static displays out at the flight line. We had the pilots interacting with the crowd as well. Just take a look at this post, and that'll give you a good idea of what we're trying.
And that little tent you see there with AMA in it with the signs, I think we made $500 that we gave to the airport. It went to.
Yeah,
It went
and
to
in the,
something.
in the building behind there, we had like 3 or 4 flight simulator setups as well, and there were, I think, 3 or 4 guys in there who were providing guidance to the folks that came in to give it a try. So
Yeah. And this one was done.
This was the day that it was extremely windy. Keep going, just show them. I don't know. if
Yeah,
we got a
this
picture
was-
together.
This was literally put together on the fly. And by on the fly, if you look right here, this is a
Yeah.
table guarding my foam airplanes from the 30-knot gusts that were coming down the runway. That's Chris's L-39. He did an awesome job with that. Chris is a great guy. He's on the team and he's willing to go. So we had to readjust on the fly. They had some room in the hangar. Then they offered us the terminal building. So we changed our sims from the hangar to the terminal, and it worked out perfect. People got out of the wind and they got in there and they got to experience that. We had some small some small statics in there. They figure they had about 4,000 people
Holy
throughout the
Toledo.
day. So,
Oh, by the way,
you can see there's that is not a gang crash there. That is
That's good.
strategically placed airplanes behind a wind block on blankets so they don't blow away.
well, just Hampton is always windy. Just plan on it,
Yep.
period.
The
Okay.
one thing I should point out that participating pilots, we fed them. There was a great truck there, good food, and AMA paid for all the guys that came to help out. And we usually do that when we're at these events.
All right, fair enough.
So that's the concept. That this is kind of the template we're looking for. So take a look at
All
that.
right, I'm about ready to turn into a pumpkin, so I will
Right.
take the action to bring this to RCAC's board's attention and do what I can to help. Okay?
Yes, cycle everything back through me, Gary. I appreciate
Of
it.
course,
Thanks a lot.
of course. All right, thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Let's see. We're getting there. Let me see what else I got on here. I think we might have, the only other one is I think the district event, and I want to put something up just for brainstorming with the guys that are left. There's a few guys left here, which is great. I appreciate that. Is there anything else other than this district fly-in event that anyone wants to talk about that we haven't touched on yet, or you want to elaborate on it a little bit more that's here?
If anybody's having problems with FRIA, with the diagrams, I believe I did RCACs. I've done at least a dozen clubs so far. Send them to me. There's no rush to get it done. If you belong to clubs and you think you're getting behind, you're not getting behind. We've received about 900 applications at headquarters. Most are sitting in an inbox. Only several hundred have been processed. That doesn't mean they're processed by the FAA. That means we just sent them in. The FAA told us last week they will not get to those in mostly all cases until sometime close to September. That's how far behind they are. So we're telling people, sit back, fly as you've always flown, fly at the altitudes you've always flown. Don't think about remote ID, all that stuff. When it happens, we'll let you know. Don't worry about the FRIA applications now. If you need a site, you don't know how to do a mapping, send it to me, send it to headquarters. I'll review it, whatever, we'll do it. We'll get the longitude and latitude boundaries if you do a polygon setup. I think I did RCACs. I think I got to do Fremont flyers. I noticed two, they were away. And I think, Darren, you wrote them and said we'd get to it, not to be worried. And so I'll get to them over the weekend.
Yeah, if you guys, I'll give you I'm going to segue here because Andy just said something about this. If you didn't see it on the District 1 group, I put a funny post on here regarding FRIA.
Yeah.
And it's right here. Come on. Give me a sec. There we go. Remain calm, all is well. Fly as you've always flown. It's not the end of the world. It's going to take a while. We are ahead of the FAA, ahead of the wave, as usual. So I was going to segue here. I didn't get to it with the teachers. I've been given this J-Wings Genesis by the flight school. Kyle Jarris out at AMA Flight School. I'm going to give it a build and test, and hopefully this may be a good platform for us to use for some of these training like Randy is using. I haven't introduced this to them yet. It's EPP foam. Its flexibility will go anywhere from a Chuck glider all the way up to an autonomous FPV platform. It'll carry about 2 pounds. It comes with foam board tail surfaces and wings. You get the flexibility of CG shift and also designing new wings to put on it too. Looks like a pretty durable and good platform. Rear pusher prop, kind of a combination of a Aero Scout and a simple cub and flat foamies all built into one with foam board construction. Should go together in a couple hours, and I'm going to put it through its paces. It's designed, believe it or not, with ailerons and no rudder, just aileron and elevator. The rudder is optional. I'm gonna fly it stock, and I'm gonna set it up with a rudder, but I'll test it as designed, and then I'll expand on it a little bit with the flying, and then I'll be reporting back, and hopefully we'll send it around a little bit. I'll definitely bring it to events and clubs and get it around and see what people think of it,
Is
especially
that
those.
the fuselage? Is that the
What's that?
fuselage you're holding?
This is the fuselage I'm holding.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a lot bigger than I thought. I thought it was a little plane like this. Geez, it's big.
No, it's a pretty good sized plane. It'll carry 2
Yeah.
pounds. It's got pegs here where you can
Yeah.
shift the payload and the CG back and forth quite a bit. It's got a good flexible CG range. So I'm looking forward to giving it a try.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the slide on the top there. I mean, here's where the students can learn a lot about the center of gravity and what
Absolutely.
the effects are of the flight. They'll be able
Yep,
to.
and plenty of, this all comes out, plenty of
Yeah.
cargo space in the center. You can see it highlighted here. And this comes with the, this is the treated foam board, so it's a little more durable when it comes to damp ground.
Yeah,
And
and the picture, if you look at it closely, I can make out, at least on my set, the holes for the dowel peg.
right here.
Yeah, they got a whole bunch of them. So there's
Yep.
your wing adjustment, and that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I think it's got some potential. It's not super expensive. It can be kitted out and part of an education toolkit for the schools. And it's
Yeah.
something that maybe AMA Flight School can have in their shop.
Yeah, we might be able to brand it along with the drone, and we'll have both a fixed wing and a drone as intro package that we'd be able to provide with the schools as well.
That's the ultimate goal. It's through STEM Plus C, which is another CBO, but their CBO status is more so on the education basis. And for people who don't know about it, if they look it up online, STEM Plus C, it's more of a extension of AMA Flight School than it is direct competition with AMA. And Kyle basically gave this designer through STEM Plus C, who's been using a prototype. They gave them the stats that they wanted, and the guy built it out for him. So there's a level of cooperation that we haven't seen before, which is great.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
hoping that'll expand.
Yeah.
So
Did
that's
they did they send you 2 or did you get 1?
just one.
Oh, okay, because I know it came in 2 boxes because I saw it, but I didn't realize that.
Yeah, the wings. That's the wings in the fuselage design.
Yeah,
So
the reason
the
why,
wings-
the reason why I asked that, I figured you could give me the second one.
Are the wings airfoiled or just flat?
no, they're airfoiled. I don't know if have you seen any of the flight test airfoiled airplanes?
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah, so they fold under and
Okay.
it creates a spar.
Yep.
I've got the Alpha Bravo and Charlie, the swept wing, the pusher jets. And those were designed by 7th and 8th graders, and they're something else. I bring those to the schools, to the middle schools, and I ask the kids when they're looking at them, I said, so how old do you think the people who designed this are? And a lot of them say, oh, college, but your age, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, your age.
Mm.
And it's amazing. They challenged them. They said, make 3 airframes, interchangeable wings. The CGs have to be the same, and they have to be changeable at the field. And we want to be able to share a power system. So the powered pod, they call them, slides out and can go in each airframe. Each airframe has a different tail surface, and each wing is a different surface. One's a straight wing, one resembles like an F-15, another one's a swept wing F-14, and then the third one is a swept forward wing, like a X-29, the old X-29. And these were middle schoolers that came up with these. And I'll tell you what, I did their build video and I bought their kitted airplanes. I built them by the video. And when you interchange the wings, they drop into place. And they did obviously they had mentors and helpers along the way, but they really did a nice job. So that kind of potential, I like the foam board for that because it gives them the freedom to design. And what Randy was talking about, you get a platform like that's durable because the foam board fuselages aren't real durable when it comes to getting damp. You get out on a dewy day and they get wet, even the waterproof ones, and they start to downgrade. So that EPP fuselage is really going to be a benefit. And they can add landing gear. They can do all sorts of things with it. So they can do a trike gear setup. They can do a tail wheel setup. They can look at the benefits, the disadvantages to that. So the last thing I had on my list was to chat a little bit about the district event. And I'm going to put something up here, Andy. I'm going to let Andy talk a little bit too, because he went to the board meeting at Gardner. I'm going to put a file up. And I just did a little comparison, and it's based on stuff we talked about already. And basically,
while you guys are doing that, is there anything for me?
No, if you don't have anything else, Randy, if you're not interested in this, the district event thing, you don't have to stick around for this. If you have anything for us,
I've got 2 test flights with WPI students tomorrow morning.
Oh my gosh, good.
I'm gonna go charge up some extra batteries for
Is
them.
Everett one of them or no?
Everett is not yet finished.
Okay, all right.
He's got about 14 feet of his 16-foot wing done.
So they are doing that component thing. That was an interesting one, the max 4-foot sections.
Maximum, actually, it's not even 4 foot, it's 40 inches.
40 inches. So what they decide to do for a spar system? I'm just curious.
It's top secret. I went back into some old archives of the very large wings that they used to build. Remember the sailplanes that used to come out of Germany that had X cross bracing in between ribs?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen those, but I'm going back 40 years.
Wow.
It made a very stiff wing. And that's what Everett has to come up with. For those of you that don't know it, that are on the call, they have to build an airplane and they have to add weight to it until it comes out to 55 pounds. They are allowed 750 watts to fly the plane.
No.
Yeah.
And there is a current limiter that's
Watts
built
per
in
pound.
so that they cannot get any more power than that.
Yeah.
So they've developed a fairly high lift wing,
Yeah.
16 feet long, a high lift tail section that's 3.5 feet across, the horizontal stabilizer. Vertical stabilizer is about 2.5 feet. The overall fuselage is just under 10 feet. And they need to fly it, and then they need to add whatever their aircraft comes out to, they've got to add mass to it to get it to 50 pounds. And then they get more points for every pound up to 55.
Those engineers from it's not Grumman. Who's Northrop?
Northrop.
Yeah, those I talked to Tom and the judges down there, they're friends of mine. They're a sadistic bunch. They really push these kids, and the problem with the competition down there is it becomes almost a pilot aircraft survival contest, because these kids come with one. I mean, some of the schools, Georgia Tech, they come with a whole, van full. But for like a school like WPI, and when I did UNH, they go down with one aircraft and they have to do these flights, and these things are hanging on the coffin corner.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that they are not allowed to have any composites, no carbon fiber, no fiberglass, none of that. The only thing that aluminum that they're allowed to have or carbon fiber is the landing gear and the wheels.
Yeah,
that's it. Everything else has to be
when I came back from those competitions, and I got my 91 extra from Extreme Flight and my 60-inch MXS out with electric power, I felt like I was flying a pulse jet. It was interesting flying. There's some good pilots down there who observe these
So
things.
Randy was telling me, as he and I talked, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and Darren, you had contacted me and said that, you couldn't make it down there. And I said, well, I'll talk with Randy, and we're kind of brainstorming who else we might be able to reach out to. And we came up with Buckley's name, right? So he talks to Buckley, and before he's even done with his sales pitch, Dick's like, yep, I'm in. Tell me where I got to be, when I got to be there. And in fact, I got my Sprinter van. I'll run down to WPI and pick up the plane and haul it down for him.
I think Jack's going to have a good time doing that. I think he'll enjoy it. I think
so. That's one of the teams. The other 2 teams, they have to design and build an aircraft that can weigh a maximum of 15 pounds. But after you weigh the aircraft ready to fly, they have to put a payload that is at least 35% of the aircraft's weight into the airplane.
Mhm.
They are not allowed to manipulate anything in the airplane. In other words, they can move a battery or something if they want to adjust CG.
Mhm.
Do another flight, then land, and they have to put on a wingtip, a 1-inch diameter PVC pipe 1 foot long, and fly the plane through the same course.
1 foot long, the PVC pipe is 1 foot long.
Sticking straight up.
So they've got weight and
Maximizing-
drag. Oh, man. Yeah.
Maximizing the drag on that wingtip. So I test flew their first prototype and it went mediocre. I test flew the second prototype Monday and that flew very well. And tomorrow morning I'll be flying their newest version of the prototype with all of the interchangeable wings. Part of the deal is that they have to build 4 wing halves.
Yeah.
And a flip of a coin selects the right wing, 1 of 2, and the flip of a coin selects the left wing, 1 of 2. So it's a pretty mean thing, and they've got to have everything interchangeable.
Reminds me of a practical joke of a practical application of aircraft performance and design.
Yep. And they're limited to 4 cell battery pack, no greater than 4 amp hours, 4,000 milliamps, 4 amp hours. And everything has to be done from scratch. It is their MQP, so I'm working with their 2 professors. I'm basically functioning as an adjunct professor there right now with all of this. And that's the team calling me. The students are using, this is their process for qualifying for their MQP. I don't know how well you know WPI, but you must complete successfully a major qualifying project.
Yep.
You get 3 chances at it. The 4th time, or if you miss it the 3rd time, you get a certificate of attendance, not a degree.
Thanks for showing up.
So it's it's pretty tough on the kids. When I flew with them Monday, they had been up Sunday night until 4 a.m. getting the plane ready.
It's amazing what I used to see down in the tents, in the dark, these kids working at it, and you see them building dynamics, and explain to them that they're going down. This is a live interview for Northrop and the other suppliers down there. They're watching your leadership skills. They're watching you work as a team. And so,
Raytheon, my old alma mater, Raytheon is sponsoring this in Tucson.
okay.
So
Cool. Now you're going to go fly for them, or do they have a pilot out there?
I've arranged for a pilot out there.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's an AMA pilot and so forth.
Excellent.
So they need to have video of the aircraft successfully flying. They have to have a local pilot sign off on the airplane, a local AMA pilot sign off on the aircraft that it is flight worthy and can be flown and has been flown.
So is it one of Charlie Nelson's buddies that's going to do it?
No, it's a guy I know from El Segundo.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Raytheon guy that I knew from El Segundo.
All right.
That's great, Randy. I envy you a little bit because I wish I had more time to do that, because I really enjoyed working with those teams. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we've got a huge amount of exposure there with these students, and they're insistent. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I just, Tom has probably told you guys 100 times, the group of people at our club, I've been the president of the club for 15 years since we got the new field. I raise my hand and say, can I get some, and I don't get the word help out before I have 4 people standing in front of me saying when. It's
And
great.
what, Randy, I mean, Andy and I were talking about it today, and I was kind of venting a little bit, but I was venting with Tim at his wonderful event on Sunday, also at the end of the event. And I did, when I mentioned being disappointed in some of the clubs, I said, I said, you're in a minority here, but it's improving. And it's like your club. We do have them. I think Andy and I can point out, a handful in each state. The problem is we want those handfuls to be the majority, and we want them to be every club, not just every odd club. And it's starting to get that way. And I think with movements and initiatives like this, where we can get the word out there better, and let people know that it's fun to interact and engage with people and do public outreach. I mean, Bob has embraced this. I think he's probably in the same boat I am, where I would rather spend all day doing this kind of stuff than going and flying my jets for a whole week. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've actually been asked by the students a couple times, by the undergrads, and why? And I said, because I enjoy this. This is fun. It's just math, and they laugh at me.
Well, and I think to add on that, I think the entirety of our club recognizes that if we don't make efforts to cultivate the hobby in new and different ways and with a variety of age groups, that it's only going to hurt us in the long run. So we're very much interested in wanting to see these initiatives succeed and contribute to them and all that. And I think with Randy's leadership in this area, getting the other guys enthused and supportive of these things goes a really long way.
That's
Thank you,
awesome
Tom.
stuff. That's awesome stuff.
At any rate, I've got like 5 messages.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
let you, we'll let
definitely.
you
Go-
get to
go
work.
help the kids. Go help the kids.
All right.
Thank you so much for
Thanks
showing
for
up,
jumping on,
For
Randy.
your input. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Randy, before Randy goes,
Yes.
I wanted to let Tom and know that I just submitted your column. And that's why I was just looking at it, and she just sent it back. So it's in there. And that's Tom's column on your event that you had.
It was the Toys for Tots
Yep.
The Toys for Tots
that I
one.
gave him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
it's a
we
good-
did that. I think, was this the 11th or 12th year we've done that?
Oh, it's long before my time with the club.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a wonderful day, given how miserable the weather was and how many members still made it
Yeah.
out to participate.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember you doing a post about that, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have seen the smile on the Marine's face who was
Well,
standing there.
that's what I'm looking at now, Randy,
Yep.
is the.
That
the
was me
meeting
flying
there
with him.
And the,
Yep.
and the big smile, and I guess, he's with you then.
Yep, he was flying with
He's
me.
with you, yep. I had to add a paragraph in the beginning just to make it fill in, and so you'll see that. I just simply said, AMA clubs have learned the importance of supporting local charities and community projects and the positive difference it makes in the lives of others and so forth. So that's in the beginning. And then I did one at the end, like I normally do, and thanked everybody. But I want to thank you, Tom, for the column. So that's your first one. That's a good job. Makes my job less. Just because.
We're going to do our best to keep feeding you with info like that. As you know, I participate in a variety of things, whether they be district level or club level. And I think our club continues to do a lot of great things. So anything that's noteworthy like that, I'll be giving you more material to come.
Pardon me.
Well,
Guys,
you gotta do that, because Darren wants to get me to fly some more. And
Oh,
the more I
I'm
have,
glad
the
you
more
said. I'm
help
glad you
that we
said that, because
get.
we got more victims. We got more volunteers here, guys. The number one priority for District 1 this season is to get this bald guy, not the one talking, the other one down here with the glasses, flying model airplanes this season. So if you ever have an opportunity, I want transmitters in this guy's hands. I don't care what it is. A transmitter in that guy's hand every opportunity you can get. Tear him
Well,
away. Put a mute on him. Put tape on his
Listen.
mouth and pull him away and put a.
I saw on their website that Tom won first place in the Fun Fly event, and I think, right, Randy, I think he was holding up one of those. I was looking at
Well,
the pictures on the website.
The very quick story on that
Yeah.
was Randy and I finished in a tie.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to have a fly off on the Toys for Tot Fun Fly Day.
Yeah.
But the weather was so lousy, long story short, we couldn't get it in. So he and I flipped a coin for who got first place.
So we'll have to test you guys. We're gonna get you to now really compete.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Andy, you'd have to try and fly. Take a look at our pilot's manual. Our fun flies always consist of a scored takeoff,
Yeah.
a maneuver, and a scored landing.
Yeah, good.
And then, whatever the CD
Yeah.
wants to do after that.
Yeah.
Because we always are pushing the guys to fly better.
Yeah.
You know,
And as the season goes on, the contests become more technical and difficult.
I mean, I ran into that problem for many years because we had sod farms and the buggers that come out and I'd say to them, I bring cones out, the street cones, the rubber ones, and I put them out. I said, if you guys can't land in here, you're never gonna fly anywhere else but the sod farm.
Yep.
And when we lost that farm, we lost about 30% of the club. They were older gentlemen, probably my age now. They had never landed except 1,000 feet and they'd walk out and get the plane.
yeah.
Plus, they didn't know what a rudder was when
Practice and fly with a purpose.
Yep.
That's my
Anyway,
motto.
gentlemen, I do have to run, so.
Well,
my
before you
apologies.
go,
Randy,
Randy,
thanks
and
again.
I'll say this for Tom too. What we're trying to accumulate is testimonials. Testimonials from like your Marine. Testimonials, or preferably little short video testimonials from people that we can put together in a video clip or something for the district, and put it on our YouTube page. We're trying to collect that from outside the choir,
Yep.
and people's effect on it. So if you can get those either written or video, that would be awesome. We're trying to
This
spread that
month.
around.
I'll keep it in mind. We'll try to get some of the WPI professors and stuff to do it.
Hey,
At any rate,
good
I'm
luck.
sorry, I do have to run.
good luck.
Hey, Randy,
Thank you.
Thanks.
thanks again.
So, all right, the guys that are left, we only got a few left here, but I think Steve Backey, you're a sport man. You stuck around. Did you stick around for this part of the discussion? I hope
He's
not.
sleeping probably.
Yeah. I'm
All
here.
right. Well, you get the Perseverance Award tonight. I wish I had a raffle item. I don't have a raffle item right now. So I threw this together today, and what Andy and in our last Zoom meeting, we kind of got on this subject and we started batting it around. What's an outreach event? What's a district event? What's the difference? What are we doing? And I think I hit on it earlier about the outreach event. And I think that's pretty straightforward. Does anybody have any questions or comments or additions? This is a whiteboard. So I'm willing to throw some brainstorming on the bottom of these columns.
We can't see it.
What's that?
We can't see it. We still
Oh.
see your browser page.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That would, that whole time I was putting it up there. So you
There
guys
you
would
go.
absorb it while we were talking.
We got it now.
All right. So you got it now. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
So, I threw these up here this afternoon and I just started to do some thinking. I wanted to shorten the descriptions we had during that Zoom meeting because they got kind of, as Tom said and expressed, they were kind of all over the place. So let's kind of reel it in a little bit and see what we want, what we got going. Take a look at these, and I've got this open and I can add stuff to the bottom that I can add to it later on. I'm open to suggestions, eliminations, deletes, whatever. Let's edit this thing down, just the group of the 8 of us that are left here, and see what we think. So for outreach, I've already talked about it, entertainment and engagement. And that's what we're adding. We're adding engagement to the air show team.
Yeah, outreach is
Look at those.
public centric.
Say again?
Is outreach public centric or is it member centric?
Well, public, I think.
That's right. So you got it in second place. Flip them up to the top.
I think he's saying make bullet number 2, bullet number 1.
Yeah. So
right.
public engagement is
Come
the.
on.
is the
Now I gotta show my prowess with the.
He's got to show his
Yeah, you
his
get it.
word processing skills.
Yeah,
Whoop, okay.
I'll get it here somewhere. I'm not as good as Chad, Andy. You should see Chad at some of the EC meetings when he does this.
Yeah.
He cooks right through this stuff.
Just
All
get
right.
rid of that. Well, get rid of those bullets and you'll be all set.
All right, does that look a little better?
Yep.
Okay. And let's look underneath the bullets. What do we got? So under public engagement, we got simulator flying, intro flying, static displays, Q&A, pilot spectator engagement. Anything else?
Would it make sense if we have locations where we have good indoor facilities to maybe have like presentations on various topics? Like I know when I was back in the Midwest and we used to go to the Toledo Weak Signals show every April, AMA and other, stakeholders would have seminars and presentations and things like that on a variety of topics throughout the duration of the show. And, I wonder if it would make sense to maybe try to incorporate something like that to talk about in a little bit greater detail, the AMA, what it means to get started in the hobby, what type of commitment you got to make, all that kind of stuff.
I think all that falls under the amount of time, the venue, time, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
We should fill this up with all the possible things we can do, and then, kind of pick it out.
Yeah, right. That's the way to do it, right? Is kind of come up with as big of a brainstorm list as you can. And then depending upon the parameters of the event, the venue, the timeline that you have, the number of volunteers, you can kind of pick and choose which things make the most sense for the parameters of the venue and the event itself.
Usually on a district event, and when we had them, especially where we had overnight, when we used to sleep at Gardner or Winterberry or Woodstock or any of those places when we had them, that would be like at the end of the day, we'd get involved in talking about, topics that whether it was FRIA now or remote ID, whatever it was. So we would wait for that time. Outreach is pretty hard to do because the public's coming and they're going. And so your best little clinics, or when you're doing what Darren does best, is when you're letting them engage. So when they come up and you put them on the buddy boxes, you put the lessons out there or the basics out there and where they can go. Then the most important thing is one sheet handout that we created, that AMA and other things they give us to hand out, but that one page that gives them the websites to go to and all our channels that we have that educate them and tell them, what they need to know, especially someone that's brand new to it. So we found that one paper that they can fold and stick in their pocket is better than the booklets that AMA gave us, or something that was too cumbersome to carry around.
What would be good to do with something like that is if we could get a QR code created to where you have very basic information on the one sheeter, and if they take their phone and snap that QR code, it brings up something else that's got a whole bunch more content for them.
Yeah, we could do that and put the data and the content on our website if we just did it from there. By the time sometimes
because then maybe you could take your one pager and turn it into a postcard size thing that you just hand out.
Where our business card.
Yeah, where you got like a page, one side and a half of the other side, or a portion of the other side be kind of like key FAQs, and then for more information,
that's a great idea.
QR code.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm gonna put a couple of guys that we haven't heard from. Wayne, Steve, Bob, speak up. What do you think? What do you think of the list? Do you have anything to add? Take off?
What about something to give them? I've been saving all my model aviation magazines, instead of bringing them to the recycle center. I think if we all sort of save the magazines instead of throwing them, we can leave them there. Some people will take them.
Yep.
Maybe other pamphlets they can walk away with.
Yep. That's great what you're saying, and most clubs don't think of it. In all my years, and I often discuss this with Darren, when I approach a club and I go to an event and it's unannounced a lot of times, I look at their sign-in table and I look to see if they got anything related to the AMA, and most often they have nothing. But in my car all the time is a plastic container with what you just said, the magazines, the one-page handout, the pamphlets, some decals, anything, just a bunch of stuff, so that if somebody shows up and the club, and it shocks us when we see it, because we see the same thing happen, with the websites from our clubs. They forget to include us, and I understand that sometimes the clubs they're proud of their clubs and they want to have control, but we're not seeking to take control. We're seeking to get people involved, and if they need to know what the steps are, the best choices are, at least let them have access to that information. So I agree with you.
Andy, I want to piggyback on something you just said, which was great, and it's a point that I wanted to make for this meeting. If you hear of any clubs that are looking to do outreach events, I know Plum Island, Bob, is they're interested in doing some aviation days.
Yeah.
Let's try our hardest to combat what Andy is saying, is that tribal club pride, and have them reach out to this group that we're creating here. This is not a club group. It's a district group. It's a group from the community to go out and help the community however we can. So if somebody needs volunteers, let these clubs that are doing this say, hey, have you checked with the district outreach team? Those are some guys that are interested in doing this stuff, and we might have somebody nearby that can help you out, or a few guys that can help you out. And it would just be a matter of briefing them up and not coming in, like Andy said, we don't want to come in and take over anything. We just want to help, because we don't want to see an opportunity lost. And we see it all the time. We see the opportunity to outreach and advocate for AMA at these clubs because they don't have the tools. And believe me, Andy and I scream to the heavens for these toolkits to come. They say they're coming, and we try and guide them on it. And we say, you need grassroots toolkits for these clubs, however basic they can be, something, but it's resistant, and we're trying. And the more we get that momentum going, the stronger our voice can be. They're tired of hearing from Andy and I. Trust me. I know they are, but we don't stop because we're from Rhode Island. But if we can start it at the club level, so if you hear it, if you're at the club and they're doing something, just throw it out there. Hey, do you guys know that there's a group of guys, there's like 30 of us that volunteer to do this stuff, and they're interested in helping. Have you called them? You're probably going to get some, we don't need that help. And then they go to show up and there's only 2 people there setting up. Well, did you try anybody else? No. And Bob and I have seen it at events over the years at Plum Island. There's usually 1 or 2 guys out there setting up and cleaning up. That has changed over the years. It's gotten much, much better.
Yeah.
But hey, you can always use another hand.
Yeah.
Just my thinking.
I have something to go with Bob's, putting our model or aviation books out there. I don't know if we can do this, but I made business cards for myself with all the information, Fremont Flyers, and my name and phone number. And on the corner I wrote, join us for your first flight. Text me for a fun flying adventure. Now, can we write that on? Because, people see this magazine when they get it, and it's like, oh, where do I start? But if we take a magic marker, a Sharpie, and write that in it with our phone number, if we can, and hand them out, and at least somebody will look, oh, hey, let me text this guy. I want to go for a flight, So I have that on my business card that I just wrote.
Yeah, that's excellent idea. Sure. I like that.
Personal invitations. That's awesome.
Yeah,
No.
I have it on. I wish you could see me, but my camera's not working for some reason. I put it on my business card.
Yeah. Yeah. Our officer cards that we get, we put the AMA mission and vision, and we put contact information on them. But I haven't seen many clubs do that. I think it's a great idea.
I wish we had a little more room on the back of these to write on, because I find myself writing notes on these all the time, Andy.
Oh, yeah.
Run out of space.
I do the same. Yeah, that's good. Certainly good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Wayne. Thank you. All right, so we're adding a few. How about we look at the district event over here? What do you guys think of this list? And we'll end it on this because it's getting a little bit long.
Yeah, I got Tom working on this now, and he's going to get back to us. He's looking at how we see the event in terms of how we're going to fly, what the appeal is going to be for the people that are coming. We're going to have a noontime air show. We're going to have segments built into it that are going to take into account the vast areas that we fly in, like we used to do in the past, and so that the expectations, or at least of what people expect that come to the event, they won't be disappointed. They'll know what to expect. If I'm coming there with a jet, am I gonna be able to fly it? Can I fly it without flying a small electric and have it being up in the air when I am? Yes. They're gonna be able to do it as often? Maybe not, but enough in 4 days for a 4-day event to certainly make it worthwhile for you to attend. So we'll try to fit in our key areas, and when he's get some more thinking on this, we'll put it together. We're gonna have another meeting of the AVPs and we'll see how that turns out. Right now, our concern is that we can't nail down. We have the location, it's Gardner. We've got approval from the 5 members board unanimously when we were there. We did a presentation. Tom was at it, Steve was at it, and we had no issues there. The problem is we don't know what date will be available. Since we've been to the meeting, it went from May, it went from originally May to June, and I don't know if they know where it is now, because the fellow that we talked to that was in charge of that was supposed to get back to us when he got it pinned down with the contractor. So it may not even happen this year. It could, but I'm not sure. But we're going to continue to plan. At least everything will be somewhat in place beforehand, so that if we get it at the last minute, yeah, we might not be able to attract as many people, but so what? It'll be our first event where we refocused. But what we should say is, about 7 years ago, maybe a little less than that, we were doing in this district 3 and sometimes as many as 4, and we've got something on the website that you can see pictures of all that. Darren, if you throw that up, the guys could see that where we went to Gardner.
Andy, if I'm not mistaken, all these guys were at that Zoom.
Oh, okay. So all of those events that we used to do then kind of went away when we felt the importance of influencing the obviously the regulations. 2012, Public Law 115, 2018, the reauthorization, and now we're approaching 223, the other 5-year mark, where I'm hoping that what we've resolved remains in place, and our wish is to have Class G airspace conditions identified more clearly start to move in our favor. Otherwise, we get back to refocusing and impacting the public and the government and paying less attention to and trying to provide our members with a value proposition. So that's in the shift.
Let's take a look at this list. Did I kind of sift through all that stuff we were talking about at that Zoom meeting? And have I kind of prioritized this better, Andy, in your opinion, of what you see it as?
Yeah, I gotta just look a little closer because the text is so small on this little screen I'm on. Yeah, okay, I got it now. I'm gonna blow it up a little. All right.
Okay.
More about flying. Yeah. Yeah, you got pretty much everything. Then I guess Tom, if he's looking at it, can
Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I think this covers the gist of it. What I was gonna do is kind of turn it into a fact sheet to let people know, okay,
this is a BS.
This district outreach event is gonna kind of consist of this format. And these are gonna be the areas that will ultimately be looking for volunteers for. We know the venue, we don't know the dates as of yet, so this is as detailed as we can get at this point. And then as we learn more, we'll update the fact sheet with those details and kind of continue the planning from there.
Yeah, and we do know that in the past, after we get those, we'll bullet out the items that they're gonna spot and attract them to come to the event. And we'll
Right, and those were the ones we would pull out of this list that we could determine on that given date, on that given venue, with that given time frame. We pull that out, and then that becomes your bullet items for that particular event. But this is kind of the overall template of brainstorm anyway. So on the district event, I de-emphasized the noon demos because we wanted to emphasize member engagement, and I de-emphasized outreach. And under outreach, you would plug in any of these again on the outreach event that you could put in there. I didn't want to repeat all that, but that's basically.
I think with the district event, in my mind, the thing that you want to really emphasize is kind of the camaraderie and fellowship, right? Like you want to emphasize getting guys together who are really deeply engaged in the hobby to kind of share with each other, learn from each other, fly with each other, and have kind of like, for lack of a better term, a guys' weekend kind of thing,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you get a bunch of guys that have very common interests doing this stuff together and just kind of hanging out, learning from each other and socializing.
The big change I would like to see, and I think Darren would probably agree, and you as well, Tom, from what we did in the past and all the events I did in the past, even going back to the IMAA, is to do what we learned in the past few years. We're going to bring out the affordables. We're gonna put them out there even though it's a member-centric thing for the members, most of the members today, even at Plum Island, at the end of the day, bring out the foamies and they fly.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we're not neglecting them just because it's a member-centric event. But I think the members today are more open than my generation, where if I showed up with the type of planes I flew and the other guy did, we were more focused into a particular area. When it was 3D, it was 3D. When it was something else and it was patent or something like that, it was precision flight, was that. But today, most pilots today, if you look at their assortment and what they got in the house, like Darren and John, I mean, they had more fun this weekend at the Frozen Fingers. And Tom, so did you, even though you went home with a broken airplane.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't have quite as much fun as Darren and Johnny and those guys, but it still was nice to get out for the day.
Yeah. I didn't.
Bob and Wayne, if you guys weren't there, it was a great event, by the way. It was a lot of fun. It was a one, we got a surface guy and a free flight guy who wasn't an AMA member, who's interested in RC, and now he's going to join the club and AMA. And John and I gave him a discount to Horizon so he can go get an RC airplane. And then we had a guy in his
the control line guy too.
And Jim was there, the control line guy. He stood next to me. I didn't even realize he hadn't flown RC in a long time. I said, Jesus, if I'd known that while I was flying, you would have had the transmitter in your hand. But he enjoyed just standing there watching me fly a glider around, a Consendo around. He couldn't believe the performance of the thing. But Tom flew his first flight. He flew for 45 seconds. Midair.
I shouldn't be laughing.
The midair caused his foamy to break but be repairable. It totaled an Extreme Flight 60-inch MXS. Total. Yeah. It came up from underneath. The guy pulled up real. He took off and pulled up and went right into his floats.
And he learned the density of EPO foam.
Yeah.
That stuff is dense and it's tough. And when you have a little light stick built and covered, Extreme Flight Aerobat,
that thing went.
You learn really quick how lightly built that is when it hits a big chunk of foam in the form of a float.
It popped like a balloon.
It cut my float in half and turned his airplane into ribbons.
Unbelievable.
That was 45 seconds into his event, and so the guy who did it came over, and I said, "Jesus, Rick," I said, "Nice, that's nice. One of our brand new AVPs comes up here to your nice event, and you go and total his airplane in the first 45 seconds of his. Oh my God, Darren! Oh." He was so riddled.
It's going to be unfortunate when he gets his letter from the AMA telling him his memberships are both.
Are you? Oh, you should do that.
This is a joke.
I told Darren, I said, you know what pissed me off more than anything? I go, it wasn't the midair, because these things happen. It's the fact that it was my first damn flight of the day. I mean, I'm 45 seconds into this flight. I brought up 8 charged batteries, and I got through less than a minute of one of them. Wow. When it ended my day. That's what pissed me off more than anything.
I let him fly one of my foamies. So you had some flying. You got a little flying.
It's like if it would have been on the 8th flight of the day, the pain wouldn't have been quite as bad.
By the way, Tom, tomorrow night, I think I sent you the email anyway. There is a Pampa meeting.
Yeah.
Zoom.
I'm not going to be able to make that one due to a work call. Thursday night 10 is when I tend to talk to my guys in China, but
that's all right. It's not a big deal.
But maybe the next one.
I'll record anything that they.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Hey, Darren.
Yes.
One more thing maybe to consider for the district event.
Sure.
Is food, believe it or not.
Oh, absolutely.
I've been to events, not just RC, but if there's no food there midday, people leave.
That's
Yeah,
bad.
no, one of the things that we talked about.
Yeah, I've
at
got
the
dinner
meeting
here,
with the Gardner board was that
Yeah.
they were gonna contact the city officials who do like the Gardner City festivals, and they
Yeah.
have all the contracts with food truck vendors, or not contracts, contacts
Yes.
with all the food truck vendors, and they were gonna pass that information along to us at the appropriate time so that we could start talking to them and see if we can get some food trucks lined up.
Good, yeah, because people leave if there's no food usually.
Oh,
midday.
absolutely. Gotta feed them.
Yep.
We've had at least a dozen events at Gardner over my term, and yeah, if they weren't there and conducted by Buckley and his wife for some of the scale events, or Ray Davis, who used to run jets long before most of the jet guys today, then they were vendor trucks that would come in and they would show up. Usually our popular days were Friday and Saturday. Sunday was the go home day. There's Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday they arrive, and so the guys that want to do more flying, they'd come on the Wednesday and fly Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday got populated by the general group and spectators, and they die off. But yeah, all the time. In fact, the food trucks often for the events that weren't sponsored by the district through my funding, the clubs made their money, and they would make it wasn't uncommon for a weekend event like that to take in a few $1,000s in money to cover expenses that the club had, and also put some money in their pocket as well.
And just so you guys know, and this is the mindset I'm trying to generate. If we have clubs and we do have some clubs with some damn good chefs. If we have clubs that specialize in food, they can be a part of this outreach team. We need them. They're right there. Anything on this list, if we have somebody that specializes in anything on this list, as far as I'm concerned, they're part of the district outreach team.
And on these both, I would attach some video records and live social media. And we couldn't do it in my day, but at least you guys have already started. All of us have started that as of recent years. But we should put that into any of these events that we do. So guys are walking around, they're at the club field, they want to just tune in, see what's going on, they can see, and then later.
Live feeds, live,
Yeah,
like
like
Facebook
Facebook
Live.
live fields. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yep, live feeds. Yep, okay.
And if we have, years back, I used to always search for, and for a while we had a district videographer early on, and then he moved to another district. But when we're having these events, we used to have a video record. And the first event I did was at Gardner back in 2004. And I still have the video of it. And the guy's saying, look, we got a new VP and he can actually fly.
Andy, was that the hand crank?
No, I was flying. You can do that. You can do it. Just come out. And and I was flying. He says, and he knows how to knife edge. We can't believe it.
No, the camera. I was wondering if the camera was hand crank.
Yeah, the
Was it hand crank
camera. Actually, the camera was a mirror with a,
Put a hood over your head. Oh, the
Yeah,
still.
that was 2004. You got to realize when I started it was 1952, and then you didn't have much. You had one thing, a rudder, and that was it.
Yeah,
One
as far as I'm
click,
concerned,
one
escapement is something you do from a prison.
I still got escapements in the cellar.
Ah.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know how I lasted this long, but it's been a great.
Well, you have, and you're still kicking. Well, listen, guys, I'm going to stop the recording because we're at 2 hours here, and I think we've accomplished a lot just on this list alone. I appreciate you sticking around, working on it
Good
with me.
stuff.
So I'm going to stop the recording here. Hold on. Where are you? Always so hard to find. Stop recording.